And we are live. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Are you having a good time? Wherever you are. What time is it, though? For me, it's 11:30 a.m. Why do people keep saying I'm late? You know, I really hate YouTube doing this. It's like waiting for Vee Live Stream rather than saying stream will be starting soon. Because I do it on purpose. Like, I want a couple of people to gather before I can actually start the stream, so it's not that I'm late. But yeah, let's focus a little bit on what's important. The news. The news. There have been such spicy news. I'm kind of ashamed that I can't cover the interesting protests in the United States. I did try to cover them in This Week in Stupid, but yeah, and I'll also try to cover them here. But I wish I could just make a more interesting video, a more compelling video where I get to talk about how I really feel. Unfortunately, that is not allowed today, so I will talk about it here, though. I have no problem talking about it here. It is quite concerning. I'll show you something when more people join. And I'm curious, like, where is this build-up going to go? Because right now you have, I guess, two ideologies within the United States that are going head-to-head with each other. And these ideologies cannot coexist. One ideology is that of, I guess, the old ways of American patriotism and American tradition. The other one seems to be the ideology of corporations, of open borders, of giving the government all the power it can muster, empowering the politicians even further, and taxation, a lot of taxation. So yeah, like these ideologies can't coexist. One of them will have to go, and it's going to be really interesting to see which one does. What I do notice is that the current establishment, this really interesting ideology, is being enforced only through censorship. It cannot live without censorship. If you go on Steam, there is a game called Black Lives Matter. I'm not even kidding, that is Black Lives Matter, the video game. Now, Black Lives Matter, the video game, is a black screen which has a countdown timer from 10 all the way to 0. And I think it costs 0.70 euros in order to buy this very beautiful game. Now, any reasonable person would point out that this is trolling, that this is, like, if I was a legit Black Lives Matter American, you know, someone that's very emotionally and hardcore invested into the cause, I would consider such a game to be a mockery. I would consider such a game to be something disrespectful. But because you have now a person that does something which has absolutely nothing to do with Black Lives Matter, and is just making a quick money out of it, a cash grab, a quick buck, as they say. And a lot of people are mocking it. You know, they're making memes and they're trash talking about it. And apparently, according to the Steam moderators, the people that are disrespecting this art piece are the problem, and they're getting banned. Now, it's interesting that they're not getting banned as in they're losing their accounts or their game library. No, like they invented a way to ban them where they don't have access to any of the Steam community lists. So they can't talk on the forums, they can't talk with their friends. You know, it's just goes to show that there is a correct way of thinking. And unless you have the correct way of thinking, you're not allowed to talk on the internet. You can have like the same conversations in a bar because it's not illegal. Like you can go outside and have these conversations, at least now. But it is kind of concerning. Like imagine if Samsung, let's say like your phone, would shut down entirely if you have a specific conversation in your house with your loved one. So like, for example, if I in my house says that I'm a Trump supporter, then my phone gets to shut down. You know, like you can still have your phone. It's just like it's still the device, but you can't connect it to the phone company. Would that not be interesting? Because I would not be surprised if this isn't where the future is currently heading. Yeah. It's very similar, I guess, to a car company that would refuse to give their cars to bank robbers or something like that. You know, it's like, because it's interesting, isn't it? Like, if someone uses their car in order to commit bank robbery, it's not that Ford is going to take their car away, or, you know, like the judge is going to tell them never to drive a car again. So I don't work today. I can watch your live stream. I'm so excited. Well, finally I can make a stream where Herr Dr. Nappy can watch me live. Wait, you don't know where this build-up is going. Do research on 1980 Germany Empire turned into Weimar and then a dictatorship. Yeah, a lot of people understand that the Nazis are bad, but they don't really look at what the build-up to the Nazis were. Very interesting, isn't it? It's like all of a sudden, poof, they appear. And there is very little explanation as to why. I don't think I can do it justice to explain all of that into one video, but you should read some history books, and there is a very interesting parallel between Weimar Germany and today. One of the most interesting aspects is the degradation of law and order, where militia groups and mobs make the rule of law on the streets. And all of that seems to be tolerated by most people until people become unemployed. When people become unemployed, people become desperate. And economic crisis brings always social unrest. Will I be playing Detroit? Yes, I will be playing Detroit because I can't play Ghost of Tsushima. I don't know how PewDiePie does it. But for me, it crashes when I play the game. Like, maybe it's because I'm using a wireless connection and I'm not using I'm not plugging the PlayStation right into the internet. I mean, that could be a possibility. It only happens when I stream, though. And hello, Yorozuya. Okay. I want to put my channel on my phone so we can read some very interesting articles now. Let me just connect it. And then we can read some very interesting things. I haven't read a lot of news from the United States recently, haven't I? V is diet Louis Levat when it comes to Detroit Become Toaster. I mean, I don't particularly enjoy it that much as a game, to be honest. There's other Telltale type games that I like more. The one with the rain, Heavy Rain. I think that was a great game. I think that was beautifully made, and I enjoyed a lot of it. Okay, finally got my live stream. Wow, it took a lot. I mean, shush, V, shush. Quiet, silencio. Okay. All right. Thoughts on a Black Lives Matter BLM member who knelt on a 2-year-old's neck? I don't know about it, but I'll tell you what, if that actually happened, it's going to be banned on Reddit. Like, Reddit actually made the rule on certain subreddits that it's not allowed to say anything negative about minorities, regardless if it's true or not. So this includes statistics, this includes everything. And, you know, it's like this counterbalance. Like, why, if you were to make a rule where you can't say anything negative about anyone, then that would be equal, right? It would be fair. Like, you're not allowed to say nasty stuff about minorities, you're not allowed to say nasty stuff about majorities. Okay, perfect. But no, it's like they allow nasty stuff about majority, and if you try to debunk the nasty stuff, it makes it look like, oh, you're a white supremacist. Like here's something that I really dislike about the current culture. I don't even care about, like as a European, the idea of whites as a group doesn't really formulate. It's an American thing. Like here in Europe, we go by ethnicities, you know, Romanians versus Hungarians. That type of thing. Most people who live in Europe understand. The idea of the white race is an American thing. And it's probably like also the idea of blacks in general is an European and American thing, because in Africa they view themselves also based on ethnicity. It's like the Zulu are being persecuted in South Africa, for example. You know? whatever, you know, like that's just neither here nor there. But my point is that you see all of these lies and attacks, and when you try to debunk them, and you're like, well, that's not what happened, then it's like, oh, so you're a white supremacist, and it's like just it's like, you know, like if someone were to attack, and this is exactly what the Christians were doing in my school, okay, like the evangelicals. The evangelical Christians were doing the exact same shit. They were constantly attacking gay people when I grew up, and many of them never met a gay person in their life. Like, because I even asked, like, do you know a gay person? No, but they're sinful people, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And when I defended, and I said, like, come on, like, that's exaggerated. Gay people aren't like that, or something like that. When I defend them, it's like, so you're with the gays. That is, like, literally the logic of a zealot. That is the logic of a person that's a bigot, that you cannot have a conversation with them. Like, you can't even humor an idea without them jumping at your throats. Jordan Peterson. Okay. Right. Look at this one. MP Jess Phillips at risk of a Shamima Begum fake headline tweet. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this story, let me just hold on. Put it on the screen. So if you're unfamiliar with this story, Jess Phillips, which is an MP for the United Kingdom, had this program called Take Back Our Internet. And this was in 2014. Basically, she was demanding that the internet be censored. Okay, because the internet is a dangerous place and women receive abuse, and it was Take Back Our Internet. Basically, like, purge the internet from people that are disrespectful towards women. And I remember Sargar of Akkad basically is when he did the big brain thing and said, I wouldn't even rape you, which is obviously not a rape threat, but he said it in a way because he knew that she is going to use that as examples of the harassment that she is receiving on the internet, which she did. And now there is this controversy in the United Kingdom. There is this lady by the name of Shamima Begum, which apparently was an ISIS enforcer. So she left the United Kingdom, she joined ISIS, and she was bullying other women in order to comply with ISIS ideology. And then she wanted to come back in the United Kingdom, and she was denied citizenship, like they took her citizenship away. So now she can't return in the UK. And there's like this controversy where the left is siding with her and Labour wants her to come back, while the rest of normal people don't, right? So there was like this fake, I guess, Guardian headline saying that while some around her losing their heads, Shamima Begum kept hers. She would make a fine Labour MP. Now, here's the thing. I think that she should be allowed to go back into the United Kingdom. Like, if I was in charge, I would give her the citizenship back, and the moment she steps the border, the moment she gets in, she would be arrested under terrorist charges and locked in a prison. Yeah, Shamima for president. Exactly. But, like, I love the argument of Jess Phillips, okay? So she says that because some person on the internet made this satire, so because some person made this satire, it puts her and her family and staff at risk of violence. And the BBC is taking her words as if they're gospel. Like, why? I mean, how does she know? What violence was committed? Who attacked her? And this is like, I would understand if it was some third party that said it, you know, like the cops would have said, yes, we're concerned about Jess Phillips' safety, or the, you know, like some British authority that deals with crime, they would say, yes, we are concerned. No. Like, she said it, like she is the one making the claim. And because of that, the BBC is legitimately, unironically, just copy-pasting what she said. So let me get this straight. Like, do you think that if a politician in my country would say, we want to raise taxes. And I would claim, you know, I think this is going to bring damage to me and my family if the politician raises taxes. It makes me feel unsafe. Do you think that the media would give a shit about my opinion? There is literally no proof, absolutely no proof that this is going to bring about violence to her. Like, she is a politician. She is a public figure. This is mockery. This is satire. Now, you can make the argument that, well, you know, like, some people might believe that this is true, which is something you would have to prove. But, like, since when are lies not allowed? Since when do we, in a free society, do not have the ability to lie? Is it illegal about lie? Now, of course, you can say, well, slander, libel. Okay, sue the person. Go through the judicial court, sue the person. Like, because here's the thing, what they want. They want the for-profit, multi-billion-dollar corporations to be fact-checkers. Like, it should be up to Jack Dorsey to decide what is true and what isn't. To decide what's funny and what isn't. This is not a free society. No one in the society should be allowed to have this power. Like, this would be a huge amount of power if we allow for unelectable, unaccountable entities to decide what should or shouldn't be said and what should or shouldn't be allowed to be said. So anyway, the false headline includes an image of the MP, while some around her were losing their head, blah, blah, blah. Ms. Phillips said she had contacted Twitter support as the post may have reached an audience of millions, but she had no further recourse. Without realizing the sinister move behind it, people saw the headline. Had it been in any publication, I could act, but as it is, I am left to deal with the fallout integration. No, that's not true. Like, this is literally not true. You can file a complaint to the cops, and they will do an investigation and find out who posted this. Like, it's not that difficult. Like, Twitter probably would cooperate with the British police if you want to find out who made this meme. Like, if you know who made it and the cops go like, okay, could we have this person's IP? Could we have this person's address? Like, you can literally find. Like, wasn't, I think CNN trying to sue a guy for making a meme? But I'll tell you something else. Like, I'll tell you what the core root of the problem is. Would some people believe that this headline is true? Maybe. Why would people believe this headline is true? Because The Guardian keeps posting such outrageous stuff that people can't discern fact from fiction anymore. Like, people cannot discern satire from reality because of the ridiculous claims that The Guardian is making. Just so you can understand, like, The Onion predicted the future. I remember making This Week in Stupid, and it was The Onion saying that Aunt Jemima is going to be replaced. 3 days later, they replace Aunt Jemima. Yeah, illegal memes, literally. Let me see if I can find another one. Like, and just so you can understand how satire is now predicting the future. This was a meme from before all of this happened. Like, this is a meme, right? I want to speak to the manager of Twitter.com because some people are making fun of me on their website. And what did she do? She spoke with Twitter support. Because it puts... And you know what? It's funny. It's like the New York Times is actually planning on releasing a journalistic investigation on Tucker Carlson. And they're going to reveal the address of his home and whatnot. Do you think Jess Phillips is going to be worried and she's going to go like, oh my, you can't do this. Like, it's not okay. I wonder what people are saying to this, though. Like, what are people's responses to this? Wait, where is our post? I think I'm doing it wrong. Okay. Sorry about that. So it had been shared 280 times. Yeah, but like, people who share it, do you think that they believe it or do they laugh and they understand it's satire? It is designed only to incite hatred. Well, that's your opinion on the matter. Why would it incite hatred? It incites mockery and ridicule. When I speak up against the powerful, woman, you're in the government. You're an MP. You are the powerful. But, like, I know that, like, seriously, it bewilders, it baffles my brain how we live in a society where the powerful get to pretend they're the victims. Isn't that astonishing? Like, this woman is an MP. She is powerful. Okay, like, there are people more powerful than her. I guess, like, the Prime Minister might be a person more powerful than her, but she's an MP. She is the establishment. Like, what? How can you claim that you are the one fighting up against the powerful? People share in good faith without realizing the sinister motives. How do you know? You haven't proved it. Fucking God. Had I been in any publication, blah, blah. Look at this, an ISIS survivor, a groomed, vulnerable girl. She wasn't a vulnerable girl. She was an enforcer. Like, there was articles showing what she did. She bullied other women who weren't subjecting to the rule of Islam. I'll tell you something else, though. Like, I'll tell you something else that pisses me off. If you were to have a teenager that, let's say, he would have been with Tommy Robinson, right? Like, when he was 14, and he would have been with the BNP, and he would have been like a right-wing extremist, right? And then he changes his mind, and he's like, you know what? I want to be dealt with. I want to be done with that. Like, now I want to change. Now I want a new start. Do you think these people would give that person a new start? Like, be honest. Do you honestly think these people would be like, you know what? Yeah, okay. Well, you changed your mind. You were a kid back then. I mean, I saw Cenk Uygur being Me Too'd because he said something when he was a teenager. Like, these are the same people. Look at this. There needs to be better regulation on all social media. Like, you are all using social media that is already heavily regulated. How much regulation do you need? Like, honestly, until the Chinese government doesn't take control of social media, these people will not be pleased. Even more now that we understand how incompetent governments are at protecting our democracy from foreign governments and insidious actors. So, not only that, like, you don't just want social media to be regulated. You don't even want the government to do the regulations. Like, the government, you can still hold it accountable. Like, you can still vote if you're really that pissed. What are you going to do against Twitter? What are you going to do against Facebook? And I know Tommy Robinson is not an extremist. I'm just trying to... well, I mean, he is an extremist because he is fighting, I guess, against the establishment in that regard. But I'm trying to frame it in a way that a left-leaning person watching this would understand and would make sense of what I'm saying. Oh, my God. Can anyone explain to me why they shouldn't remove Aunt Jemima? It's a private company. I'm not saying they shouldn't, man. Like, if they want to remove Aunt Jemima, they should, but it's ridiculous. You know, like, I disagree with the reasoning behind it. Like, just because you can't do something doesn't mean you should. You know, if I want to, I can scream like a madman and run around naked around my house, but, you know, that raises a couple of questions. Like, that's my point. I don't care they decided to remove Aunt Jemima. It's their brand, you know, like, they can do these things, but it's ridiculous. That's the point. The trouble is just that while some saw through it, most didn't. They actually believed you are the sort of woman MP, human British citizen to say something like that. You know what's interesting though? Okay, so I would love to see if Jess Phillips could make the argument of why Shamima Begum shouldn't make a fine Labour MP. Like, what is the reasoning that she shouldn't? I mean, okay, so their argument is that she was a girl that got groomed, right? And she regrets her decision. And now she wants back in the UK. So you want to give her back citizenship. Okay, if you give citizenship back to her, why wouldn't she make a Labour MP? She's a British citizen. She's equal to everyone else in the country. Why shouldn't she become a British MP then for Labour? Like, name me the argument. It would be so interesting to actually hear Jess Phillips articulate the reason on why Shamima Begum, if she gets her British citizenship back, would make a poor Labour MP. Thank you, Sage Boren. I don't know what Azura's Wrath is. I don't even think I have the game. Not to mention, like, she would enrich the diversity in labor, which I understand is not very diverse. Like, they need a woman like her. Why do you care? Because it's ridiculous. Because it's not just one company doing it, man. It's like all these companies, they try to advocate that they're fighting racism by changing their brands. Yes, it's funny. It's ridiculous. It's not that I care to the point where I wouldn't buy their products, but I do feel insulted in a way. Like they feel as if they have what it takes to offer morality to society. That's what I feel. You know, it's like they're basically lecturing to other people about what is right and wrong. It's like, no, go fuck yourself. I don't care. You know, like, you're a company that sells syrup. Just shut the fuck up and sell the syrup. You know, just because you have more money than other people doesn't make you more right. And if you want to start moralizing people, then I can also decide not to spend my money in some cases. You know, without Jemima, that's not a case. But for example, there's other companies like Games Workshop where they flat out tell you that if you don't believe what they believe, you're no longer welcome there. Like, why would I spend money then to a company that will do activism with my dollars for causes that I do not agree with? Another example would be Gucci. Gucci, for example, sponsored the March of Our Lives, which was for gun control. So if I go and purchase a Gucci product, they are going to use that money in order to fund left-wing activism that I disagree with. So no, I have to vote with my money. You know, like, the left does have a point. The left, when Chick-fil-A decided to have a stance, a religious stance, and started donating to the Salvation Army and other such organizations, they started boycotting and literally attacking the company. Like, there were human chains made in front of the company preventing people from going in. They harassed Jack Dorsey because he made a picture with him eating a Chick-fil-A sandwich during Gay Pride Month and other nonsense, right? Because the left does understand this level of power. Now, if you want to be a weak sauce and not exercise the level of power, which is the ability to hold corporations to account, then you do you, I'll do me. There are a lot of right-wingers now which are going to start using cancel culture against Reddit. And I think they should go for it. What they're doing is they're going on Reddit and they're searching for instances where people support child molestation, pedophilia, like all this nasty stuff. They're compiling it in a folder and they're going to sell it to, they're going to show it to Reddit's advertisers. And I think they should. They should absolutely do that. If Reddit wants to be political and piss people off, then people have a right to fight back. Only buy counterfeit Gucci. Like, who buys Gucci anyway? You know, it's such a just... Everything at Gucci is expensive. Like, regardless of what it is, it costs 10 times more. Like, you're literally paying the brand. This stuff makes me want some Chick-fil-A. Oh, Chick-fil-A eventually bent the knee. Like, they received so much harassment from these activists that they decided to stop funding the Salvation Army and other things, and instead they decided to start giving money to left-leaning NGOs. And what ended up happening is that the left still attacks them, the left still disagrees with them, and the only thing that they've managed to do is now to piss off the right supporters as well. So now they went political and they pissed off both groups of the politics. I washed my dog. He smells like raspberries now. Oh yeah, you see, like, I have cats. I never experienced washing the pussy, but yeah. V, get a prenup before the wedding, or she will take your channel. See, in Romania, the wedding legislation is a lot different. In America, like with a prenup, from what I understand, it doesn't really hold that much weight in court. I mean, you can do it, but it often gets attacked in court and it's often dismissed. So in Romania, before the marriage, you have goods that are considered to come outside of marriage. So for example, if I buy a house now and it's my house, when I marry, it's my house. But everything else is common goods. So you have the stuff that you came from before the marriage, and then you have a different amount of goods that are within the marriage. So when you file a divorce, the stuff you had before the marriage is still yours. You still get to keep it. But the stuff you obtain while you were married, that gets to be shared. So again, if let's say you have a house and then you get married and you buy 4 houses, well, then the house you had before marriage is still yours, but those 4 other houses you bought when you were married, those get shared around. So I don't know how it is in your country, but yeah. As for the children, I do think they usually go with the mother. Yeah. Men buy Gucci for women to show status to them. Women want Gucci to show that men, if I status, want them. Yeah, probably. Succubus neriti, do you want Gucci? Do you want a Gucci purse? Should the succubus get a Gucci purse? That's the question of the day. At least you get to keep your house. No, like you get to keep everything that you had before the marriage. And even if you sell the house while you're married, it's still considered that that money is yours. Like if I sell my house and buy an apartment, and I do that with the money that I got from selling my house, it's still my apartment. It makes sense, right? Like the reason, well, why do people share, like first of all, I really disagree with the alimony laws. But why do people share everything they have in marriage? It's because the idea used to be, and this is something that feminists will never talk about, by the way, and the left will never address. But most laws that govern marriage are usually old laws that have been made 100 or 200 years ago and still remain today, which, in my opinion, they're not really fit for the purpose of the society today that has changed drastically in the last 200 years. But the idea was that the man goes to work and the woman stays at home and takes care of the household, takes care of the children. And we're talking about a very difficult time where it was a full-time job. You had to wash the clothes at the river. Mopping and cleaning would take hours. Nowadays, you got a vacuum cleaner. Hell, you got a Roomba. Yeah, you got a vacuum cleaner. You get a microwave. You can order food from outside. You got so many abilities like a washing machine. You get all the house chores can be done in 1 or 2 hours if you do them once or twice a week. So there's no justification for the woman to stay at home. But it was basically, the idea was that if the husband isn't married, then he wouldn't be able to be so successful at work if he also had to do the housework and take care of the children, right? So that's why the woman gets half of the stuff, because it's considered that it was a collaboration, it was a unity. The idea of alimony is something that really is bizarre and should be dealt away with, and I even saw feminists making articles against alimony, which is very interesting. So the alimony is the idea that the woman should have money after a divorce, so that she doesn't, like, if let's say a woman is abused during marriage, she wouldn't want a divorce because she has nowhere to go, right? So she would be on the streets. And this is why they get alimony, so that they can maintain the lifestyle and be allowed to have the choice of divorcing. But nowadays, both men and women are expected to go to work and make money. So it's kind of weird. Now, the interesting thing is that there were cases where poor men married up and they married rich women. So after the divorce, the woman was owing alimony to the man, and that's when feminists got upset. Because how dare you? In fact, I really disagree with child support as well. Like, the reason I disagree with child support is that if one parent, doesn't matter man or woman, it's irrelevant, but if one parent has custody of the child, then the other parent has to give money to the other parent to take care of the child. But there is absolutely no control to see if the money that you give actually goes to the kid, if you know what I mean. So for example, imagine that I'm a very rich millionaire, right? And my wife files for divorce and she's got a kid. And now let's say the judge makes me pay, I don't know, $100,000 per month to the kid. Well, why does the kid need so much money? First of all, like that's the first question. The second question comes, it's like, how do I know that the woman doesn't use that money to buy jewelry and accessories and have a rich lifestyle on the back of my cash? You know, like I've got nothing against the kid getting money and the kid getting all that, right? But it's like, why should the woman get it? Or the man, for that matter. Like if he marries a rich actress and now the actress has to provide money for the guy, it's like it's the same thing. Will you read to your kid if your partner gets pregnant? No, that's ridiculous. I really hate the people that fetishize the pregnant belly and they take pictures with it and they're like and they start reading to it and that. No. But I would read my kid bedtime story. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Like reading bedtime stories, I think it's quite important. But yeah. That's what happened to my uncle. He had to pay child support and his ex used money for herself. Man, like it's so common. It's so common that I know people, 3 different people in my life I knew, who had their parents divorced. Their father was wealthy and he gave money to the guy's mother. And the mother would keep most of the money herself and the kid wouldn't even have like pocket change. And the dad was livid about it and there was nothing he could do. Like he just was forced by a judge in order to pay that that child support, and he never managed to, he never managed to convince the judge that the woman is keeping the money herself. Another example that I find it's unlawful and it's immoral is, let's say you have a family that's married, okay? Like, let's say I'm married to a woman, and I lose my job. Okay, and the woman is upset because I don't have a job now and she divorces me and she takes the kids. Well, now if the judge says I have to pay child support, if I don't pay it, I go to jail. So the problem is, when I'm with her, I'm divorced, right? So there's no problem. But when I'm with her, I don't have money, so there's no problem. But the moment she divorces, like I need to get money or go to jail. How does that work? They believe she should keep the same standard of living when the man is the reason the standards went up. Yeah, like that's something that I don't agree with. And again, like it's not man versus woman. Like I would disagree if it was the other way around. It's just like they're both human beings. They both deserve the equal treatment. And how is this equal? Like how is it equal? Like if one person brings the big bacon and then the other person goes like, okay, you know what, like I'm going to go my separate ways, then go your separate ways. Why do you want a slice of that bacon? I just don't understand. Read your child Marx alongside the history of the USSR and the Communist China Party. Does alimony go both ways? Yes, and this is why a lot of feminists got upset. Because you had wealthy women having to pay alimony to poor men. And they started making a lot of accusations that it's unlawful. Now, I'm pretty sure the feminists would just want to make it so that there is no more situation where a woman pays to a man rather than get rid of it. But it is what it is. Let me see if I can find something else that's interesting. Oh yeah, this is going to be in This Week in Stupid. Like, look at this. Just look at this beautiful work of art. This is the mayor of Portland, right? And he says, so if you're unaware, like in Portland, protesters attacked a judicial court, I believe, federal court or something. And they called in the law enforcement, like the federal law enforcement, to protect it. And here you have the mayor, Ted, saying that there is nothing that the protesters did wrong.
I can tell you with 100% honesty, I saw nothing.
So I can tell you with 100% honesty that he saw nothing that justifies the federal authorities cracking down on the protesters. And here we see people throwing with fireworks at the authorities. And this is where the mayor is. Like, this is where the mayor is getting interviewed. And just a couple of meters away, people are launching fireworks at the government agents. Isn't this beautiful? Like, can you imagine? Like, if I were to make a movie like this, people wouldn't believe me. But this is just Look at this. This is literally a couple of meters away.
This is a egregious overreaction.
Egregious overreaction, he says it. Look at it. Look at it. Look. Why are you doing that? Stop that. Look at it. And by the way, like, people are saying that these fires were lit by the government agents themselves. So look at the government agent. Look at it, disguised as a ninja. Oh my god, I want to see this again though. It's like, look, just beautiful. Like, people launching things. And the mayor saw nothing. He saw nothing. Like, he couldn't see it from back there. Oh my fucking god. How can they lie like that? I don't think I would be able to lie. See, this is why I wouldn't make a good politician. I don't think I'm capable of lying with such a straight face. I just don't. But it's a skill that I wish I had, you know? Like, I need to hone that skill. I need to be able to lie in front of people with the same stoic expression. Like, there's fireworks going, like, meters away from me. People launching fireworks into a courthouse. And I will say, I have seen nothing wrong. Like, I don't know. This is fine. Nothing to see here, yes. Tear gas light. It's, oh my god. No, seriously. It's really interesting to see where all of this is going to go. See if I get other juicy stories. Oh yeah. By the way, like, I saw this and I laughed a little bit. I wonder if he managed to keep the selfie stick. Like, you know, the problem is these are valuable, right? So you want to keep them in your hand when something bad happens. Like, would you have the reaction to drop it so you can swim? Why would you walk on this thing anyway? I mean, oh my god. Look at this headline. Like, this is the most beautiful headline ever. This is the press, right? Like, these are the people you're supposed to get morality from. This is where you get wisdom nowadays. Donald Trump is the loneliest man in America. Those close to the president says he has no one close to him. How can you write something like this? Like, man, like, if these people could make black into white by speaking, by using words, like, if you could make black into white by using words, these are the people I would hire. Like, at this point, the words mean nothing. Like, the definitions are useless. It's like, those close to the president says he has no one close to him. It's like, look, I understand you have a different point of view, okay? You think he's an evil man or whatever. Fine. But, like, can you at least make sense? Like, some coherency when you write this garbage? there should be like the raspberries for the Pulitzer. You know, like the same way you have the raspberries for the Oscars, you should have the raspberries for the Pulitzer. The speechcraft level of 100. Yes, I agree. That makes no sense. Yeah, he has a family. It's like literally there's probably a guy, a 40-year-old virgin that stands alone in a basement and he's like, what are you talking about? How can you say Donald Trump is the lowliest man? It's like, am I a joke to you? Mainstream media is a bunch of high school girl bullies. They're like, what I'm really bewildered is like, how many people still believe the mainstream media at this point, man? It's like, if people still believe the mainstream media, I don't know what to say. Like, you literally had quarantine lockdowns. Like, many people, in fact, I don't think there is a single person that doesn't know at least one guy that got fired because of COVID. Like, I know a lot of people that got fired because of COVID. And, you know, they lost their job. It's horrible. And they were like, okay, well, at least, you know, the government, the people in power want me to be safe, right? Like, losing my job was worth it because at least people don't get sick. What happens then? Marches, like millions of people on the street. And the same politicians that were encouraging the lockdowns are now, no, you should go out and protest. And you even have like experts that are saying, oh yeah, no, you should go out and protest because racism is a far deadlier disease than COVID. And it's like, how can you still trust the media? It was literally from one day to the next. Like, it was like one day you weren't allowed to go outside. The next day you were encouraged to go outside. Like, how? I think the Dr. Rondemarkam explained it. It's like he's got a nephew and he's not allowed to visit him because of the regulations. Well, I think they lifted the quarantine, but this was before. Like, he wasn't allowed to visit because of the regulation. But if he would have took his nephew to a BLM rally, then it would have been fine. Then, like, it's okay. He's allowed. Legally, you can do it. I lost my job, but at least I didn't get the cold. You underestimate how many people still believe the mainstream media. Yeah, no, like, I absolutely do. I don't underestimate. Like, I know people still believe it, and I don't know how it's possible. How is it possible? And what I really hate is this new idea that the left has come up with, like, after millions of dollars in damages in impoverished neighborhoods, nonetheless, you know, like housing projects being burned down. You had people talking about how, what were they saying? Oh yeah, how violence, like, let me see if I managed to get one of these titles. They were basically saying that destruction of property isn't violence, right? I think Sargon even made a video about it, which is why I didn't bother. But, like, look at this, right? So why damaging property isn't the same as violence? And then you have other articles that literally say the same stuff. Like, there's over 8 articles, as far as I'm aware, that are talking about how destroying things isn't bad and it's not violence. Look, harm to object is not the same as harm to people. And we have to keep this distinction in mind. Now, the reason that this pisses me off the most is that they completely, like only a communist would think like this. This is only communist ideology. No other ideology in the world would believe that it's violence towards objects is acceptable. Because here's why. You sever the connection that a human being has towards the object. Like, a human being invests a lot of his energy and time in order to build up something, whether that is a business, his house, whatever it is. He puts his own blood and sweat in order to make that. And you're saying that, well, that doesn't count anymore. It can be destroyed because we say so. No, and when you look at the governments in any world you want, like whether it is in China, whether it is even, I suppose, in the USSR, like, pick any nation, any form of government, anything you want in the history of the world. So you can even go back in time. And look at a system and tell me, what do you think, who do you think would get a bigger punishment? The person who is a murderer and kills one person, or the person who's an arsonist and burns down an entire city block? Who do you think gets a higher punishment from the law? Like if you, in America, let's say you kill someone versus you do $500 million worth of damage. Who do you think gets a bigger punishment? And the reason is, you can't put a price on human life. I completely agree. But you are affecting far more lives by burning down $500 million worth of property, because some of those people are going to go unemployed, some of those people are going to fall into a major depression, some of those people might even, heaven forbid, commit suicide because of it. So, it's... Not to mention, like in America, they used to hang horse thieves. Like I talked with Arch the other day about it. But horse thieves in America used to be hanged. Because the horse was the most important aspect of a house. Like, it would plow the land, it would take you to places, and it would carry stuff for you. Without the horse, it was very difficult to feed your family. So yes, horse thieves would get hanged. And again, like, this is from the people that are saying words are violence. So the same people that say words are violence, and if you misgender someone, you should be banned off Twitter forever, are the same people that are now saying that actual violence isn't violence. Again, if you could make black into white by using words, these are the people I would hire to do that. Frederick the Great said the human mind is weak. Over 3/4 of the world are destined to be servants of the craziest fanaticism. Democracy doesn't work. Humans are not smart. The only reason that I like democracy, to be honest, is because you can hold people accountable. Like, they can't go crazy fanatics in a democratic system. They still need to pull the brakes. You can't have the horrors in the USSR in a democratic system. Because the moment you do that, you will lose office. And the only thing that the people in power are afraid are about losing their seats. So when you have someone that's a little bit crazy, at least you know that you can replace him eventually. So while democracy, I agree, is not... I mean, I'm looking how the political discourse is happening in the West, okay? The little guy is being cut off completely. The political discourse is happening between NGOs, corporations, and politicians, and the mainstream media. These are the only ones that literally matter. But again, like, every now and then you have someone that does such huge blunders and such huge mistakes that they do get replaced. You can hold people accountable today. I mean, in Britain, Labour lost massively. Massively. It's going to be really interesting to see the new elections in the United States, but again, Trump managed to, well, the Republicans actually managed to get a really good results when the elections for the Senate and the House came on. It was historical results. They were very good. So yeah, I mean, how many BLM riots have you had in Romania? We had actually quite a few riots, believe it or not, especially against the Communist Party and Communist regime. We had the miners rising up, like that was something which happened a couple of years ago. So just so you can understand what the miners did, it was during a time when we finally got rid of communism. And the new people that got in power were communists. But they would just change some definitions and they would change just a couple of things in order to make it seem like they aren't communists. So a lot of students and a lot of people that believed in human rights went in front of the palace, the presidential palace, in order to protest. And the protests were gaining in numbers, like they were becoming really big. It was quite influential. So what the communists did is they got the miners with bats and chains, and they went into Bucharest, the capital of Romania, and beat the living hell out of the protesters. They would stack up entire trucks of students that were demanding human rights and free speech. It was a massacre. Like women that were pregnant aborted on the streets. That's the first, what we call mineriada. It's only an English, it's only a Romanian term, like when the miners rise up. And I think there were like 2 more, if I'm not mistaken. There were 3 in total. So yeah, no, we didn't have BLM riots in Romania, but the communists don't really need a a special ethnicity or a special race in order to do their riots. They work with what they have. It doesn't matter. Like they will make some, they will bring something up. If you don't have minorities, for example, they will bring the coal miners that are really muscular, well-built lads with chains and bats and all of that. Let me see if I can actually find a couple of images from Mineriada. Just give me a little bit. So this was from the 1990s. Let me see if I can find the actual thing. Yeah, these were the miners that went out. And as you can see, they started beating the students that were protesting against the communists. And they came with bats, they came with chains, they came with... and they beat everyone that had glasses, that had a beard. They beat pregnant women. They didn't discriminate. Like anyone that looked intellectual, they beat them. And they also went into the opposition party's headquarters, which were the National Liberals at the time. And they completely vandalized them. Like, they beat the people they caught inside. They destroyed their headquarters. Like, look at this. You know, it's mostly documentaries and people showing what happened. But there were millions of them which descended. I don't think I can find an actual thing where it shows the violence. And even now, no one was being held to account. Like even so many years later, you know, after many people died, no Romanian politician has been held to account. So yeah, you know, like when you ask, like, did you have Black Lives Matter riots in Romania? It's like, no, we had communists in Romania, and again, like they will use whatever they have at handy. They don't need race or ethnicity or anything like that if they want to spark some civil unrest. Truly, Kadat is in the coal mine, yes. Those images may be too spicy for Susan. I know, which is why I'm deleting all of these things. We have democracy for just 100 years and everything is collapsing. I don't know if it's actually collapsing. I mean, the European Union might be collapsing. But like you have to understand, nations collapse constantly. It's like, let me show you something. I think this is a good one. Yeah, so people that say, oh, well, it's the collapse of civilization or something like that. I mean, if you look at the map of Europe throughout time, you will notice that civilization constantly collapses and new ones are constantly made. And now, this isn't a really good one because, hold on, we just started, right? So this is mostly the lack of information of what went on here, so we don't really know how the maps were like. But let's skip a little bit ahead. Okay, I mean, look at it. Look how fast things are falling and remaking, and just in a couple of years, you have new borders, you have new civilizations popping up, and then they're spreading into different smaller ones. I think the civilization that we have today is a lot more stable than what used to exist in the past. There are a couple of differences, though. When you look at the United Kingdom, their borders remain constant. And it's the same with China. Like, these are the only two exceptions. But if you look, you know, in Europe, like, look, you have the entire Avar. Yeah, sorry for that. The internet went down. And look here. It's kind of funny that it was called the Holy Roman Empire. No, sorry, yeah, because it wasn't holy, it wasn't Roman, it was the Empire. The civilizations that we have today lives off the work from non-democratic process over hundreds of years ago. And right after we got democracy, everything falls apart. Man, it doesn't fall apart like this. Like, just wait until you see what happens after World War II. Like, the borders remain mostly the same. In fact, I would say that now we live in a time that is far more peaceful, at least in Europe and in the United States. It's far more peaceful than everything we had in the past. You know, you complain about the Black Lives Matter riots, and I kind of agree with the sentiment. But think about, like, if these riots would have happened 50 years ago, you would have hundreds, if not thousands of dead. I mean, like, it's kind of shocking to see an entire city up in flames. And it's a good thing that people don't die as much, you know? Like, again, just look at history and see what happened when you had the riot 100 years ago. And compare it to today. We live in the best human time possible, according to our history. Like, we live better than a king lived in the year 1700. That quote is from the 18th century. The borders after World War II remained the same because the great nation said no wars, annexed stuff are allowed anymore. Well, yeah, but again, like, they could have said this even before. No, it's... honestly, I don't complain that I live in 2020. Like, there is no time period I would have rather lived than in the present. The only exception might be the future. You know, if I know what the future has to bring, then yeah, maybe I would like to live in 2200 or something like that. Look at this horrible red blob. Look at the... You know what I really love? It's like the ideology of the USSR was against imperialism. It's like, oh, America is imperialistic. Look at this huge red blob. Totally not an empire. Wait, why wasn't Romania under USSR? Oh my god, it's... Yeah, I guess, like, they would say Romania is independent, but in reality it was also puppeteered by the USSR. Just like the rest of the Iron Curtain. I mean, look how stable the borders are. Okay, just look here. Okay, you have some minor changes, and look at the stability. Look at it. Compare this to what it was when we started watching, and like every single year you'd have changing of borders. Look at this. Look, just minor differences. So, no, like, I think that the civilizations collapsing is actually the rule. Like, throughout the entire human history, you have nations forming, nations spreading into smaller nations, and some nations conquering others. Why is Bulgaria so big? Jesus. They shouldn't be allowed. Same for Poland, huh? No one knows about Romania's history. All Romanians know about Romanian history. The only people that don't know are the Hungarians. USSR was a great country. Yeah, I kind of disagree with that. If that was the case, why weren't Americans trying to get into the USSR? Like, why were more people, like, wanting to go into it? You confuse the natural progress of technology with today's technology is more than possible. After World War II, the Allies said no annexation wars allowed anymore. That's why borders didn't change anymore. But it's not... yeah, I mean, I would say that the invention of the atomic weapon is what stopped wars. But, again, like, I don't see your point. My point is that civilizations collapsed all the time. But that doesn't mean, like, the people in that country die off or, you know, like, they don't continue existing. It just means that there's now a new system of government. Does this map include the EU? No, it doesn't. And it shouldn't really. Like, the European Union doesn't... I don't consider the European Union to be a state. Like, they want to be a state, but they're not a state now at this point. And it would be horrible if it becomes a state because it's not accountable to anyone. Let me see if I can get actually the map of the world. Oh yeah, we get here. This is a great one. History of the world. I love this one. And the music is so good. You know, it's so interesting. Like, there's probably people all over, but we just don't know anything about them. And we just know about these, you know, small nations that we have archaeological evidence from. There is no progress. Weak nations are allowed to degrade further while they got replaced by better things back then. So now everyone is degrading. I mean, I don't know how you interpret degradation, you know, like that's another thing. I mean, the living standards of even poor people today in these degrading nations are far better than the best standards in the strong nations in the past. The fact that I can even use a computer to talk to you right now is just a symbol of the fact that we do have a better lifestyle. You know, like I want to be grateful for what I have. I'm not always going. Of course, I can have better things, and I can complain about them and try to improve things. But I'm not like a communist that constantly complains. Let's speed it up a little bit. Yeah, so what I find interesting is I don't know anything about China, but like look how ancient China is, man. Like even before 2,000 years before Christ, we know about a place that is later on going to become China, and like people here, you know, they were advanced enough to leave archaeological findings for historians to find. Yeah, this is where history actually starts getting interesting. It's also interesting because back then, due to the lack of agricultural tools and knowledge, the only way to feed more people was to conquer more land. Like there was just a finite number of people you could feed with the land you had. So this is why you had all these wars and all these conquests. Yeah, exactly. Like someone pointed out, like if you're a poor person in the United States, you can still have an iPhone and you can still have a television. Degradation means no more rise of Marxism, fatherlessness, rise of authoritarian oppressive system that democracy won't stop. Yeah, I agree with that, but again, like my problem is that the reason that's bad is because these systems erode democracy, and the solution would have another system that is also undemocratic. So you just replace one problem with another. But I don't think like these ideals are going to stick around for long. You know, it's just going to, like, I don't think problems go away. I think problems just come back. And all of these problems that you're talking about Marxism and all of this other thing, like they existed in the past. They got rid of and now they're coming back. And I'm pretty sure like the pendulum will swing again in the opposite direction. And it's already swinging in Eastern Europe. It's going to be really interesting to see if Deutsche Bank collapses, what's going to happen. Because that might actually bring about social change. Like social change won't happen while people are still happy. And they have full bellies. And honestly, it's like what you're saying, you know, about all these problems. I can just, you know, have individual solutions for myself and my family. It's just like other people could have my solutions and they will be just fine. And my solution is just find a conservative woman, you know, someone that believes in God, and marry, have 1 or 2 kids, and buy a house. That's the solution for me. Like everyone expects like this grand solution that's going to change society. Like I just know the type of solution that it will fit me and it will give me and the people around me a good life. You want to be ruled by the majority of people who are Karens and Marxists. Deutsche Bank will be saved by the German taxpayer money. We pay for everything. Yeah, I don't know, but the taxpayer money might start complaining when they notice where their taxes are going, you know. And being ruled by Marxists and Karens, I don't know, man. Like, what makes you think that another dictatorship won't have also Marxists and Karens? Like, do you honestly think that Marxism is the only ideology that produces Karens? Like, don't you remember during the Bush era, you had the Karens that were like, oh my god, your kid is playing Dungeons and Dragons. Oh my god, your kid is listening to rock music. Oh my god, your kid is... Like, those are the people that produce the Karens today, if you think about it. Like, if you think about it, you had the people that were produced by the World War II, and their culture created a backlash, which produced the hippie culture. The hippie culture created a backlash that produced the George Bush culture, and the George Bush culture created a backlash that created the Karens we have today. And the Karens we have today are going to create a backlash, and we're going to see something else. Now, I don't know what that might be, but it's definitely going to be something that will oppose the Karens, you know? Gentlemen, money is eternal. Well, see, the USSR also thought that. And the USSR, I think, had more money than Germany does today. Yeah, authoritarianism is the problem, really. Like, the problem that I have is with other people that try to force you to live life in a certain way. And in most cases, it's irrational. Okay? Like, for example, the fact that if I were to use the N-word in a video game with just my friends, and there's no person that gets to hear it other than me and my friends and we consent, well, that's a problem. Like, I'm hurting the grand fabric of society if I do that. If you make a cosplay as a black character, as a white guy, well, that's a problem. You're hurting the fabric of society if you do that. You know, like, this is the thing that pisses me off. It's just leave me the fuck alone. Like, I'm not hurting anyone. Leave me the fuck alone. Like, I'm sure you can justify a way that I'm hurting people, but you're wrong. I'm right. Shut the fuck up and leave other people alone. The Soviet Union existed for 80 years. You are happy with the backlash that would last that long. I don't know how long the European Union exists for. Going to be interesting to find out, won't it? If an N-word falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, did you really say it? But anyway, you know, like, I'm doing my best in order to fight against things I don't like. I mean, I do have a YouTube channel where I tell to people what I don't like. They're free to make their own decisions. Again, I married. Well, I got engaged, but I'm going to marry, going to have kids, going to have a house. Going to teach my kids religion, Kubusk. Going to teach them evangelicalism. And that's it. Can't think of any other religions, though. Like, if it's a guy, maybe I'll teach him Islam. Then I can have, like, 2 or 3... What would a wife be? Like, daughters-in-law. I can have, like, 3 or 4 daughters-in-law if I teach him Islam, right? Like, that's a plus. Like, I like that. Huh? If it's a girl, I probably won't teach her Islam. Like, no, that's probably not. and if I teach him Islam, I'll teach him to be a moralist. Like, just wiggle your hands at everything that's haram. Just make sure that no haram goes under your undetected. Will you name the kid after the highest donator? Well, Kubusk, I don't think you're the highest donor. I know you gave me a lot of money. But I did got bigger donations, I have to say. I think like one time, the biggest donation that I ever gotten was around $1,000. And I wet myself. I was like, oh my God, I got 1,000. Like, you know, can you understand? Like, just, and then I find out that the person accidentally gave me $1,000 and asked the money back. And I had to explain to him, it's like, look man, you gave me the money. I now have to pay taxes for it. And when I give it to you back, I'll also have to pay taxes for PayPal. But, you know, I did the right thing. The guy was drunk. I gave him back the money. It's like, okay, well. Still, I understand. You know, I used to be a person that was poor, and I kind of know how it is to fuck up and give $1,000, so. Was it that other YouTuber? No, it was that other YouTuber. It was a PayPal donation. I don't think I ever gotten $1,000 on a chat. The biggest amount of money that I did get was during a Dungeons and Dragons stream. I had some people just one-upping themselves. I don't know how you can actually donate $1,000. I guess you press an extra 0 on the keyboard. You know, like I was legitimately scared giving him back the money because I thought it's a scam. Like that sounded like a scam to me. You know, you give someone a lot of money and then you ask them back. But I did give it to them, so it wasn't a scam. Still, you know, it is a little bit. Not to mention, yes, I did have to pay taxes for them. Man, had to pay that tax difference. Yeah. 1,000 back can be counted as an expense, so you don't need to pay taxes for receiving it. Not really, because it's a donation, like the Romanian law. Like, it makes kind of, because otherwise, if that was the case, I could just have my girlfriend start the PayPal, right? And then I could just donate all the money I make to her and count them as expenses. So, no, you can't do that. I just heard the story of some kid that recently donated 20,000 of his parents' life savings on Twitch. Like, usually that's not that bad because you can actually talk with the credit card company and cut it. And it's also Twitch's fault for allowing people to do this, but yeah. Thank you, Mr. Angry. Mr. Angry gives me also big donations. But anyway, right. Thank you for watching this. I really appreciate that you guys gave me super chats. And yeah, the stream will be deleted. I need to go make the video for my